She thought the truth would fade. But secrets don't disappear. They wait. And tonight, hers finally came home. Before the story begins, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps these powerful stories coming every week. The house felt different the moment she stepped inside. Too still, too aware, as if every wall already knew the truth she had tried to hide. She paused at the end of the hallway, fingers tightening around the strap of her backpack, listening to the low hum of silence coming from the living room. It wasn't the silence of peace. It was the silence that comes right before everything breaks. Her shadow stretched long across the floor, trembling faintly with her breathing. She wished she could stay in the hallway a little longer, suspended in the moment before consequences. But time didn't pause, and neither did the weight inside her chest. She took one slow step forward. The living room was dimly lit by a single lamp on the far table, its warm glow wrapping the room in a softness that felt painfully opposite to what waited for her. Her father stood near the center of the room, unmoving, shoulders set with a calm but unmistakable heaviness. In his hand, he held the wooden paddle they only used for the most serious situations. He didn't raise it or grip it tightly. Its mere presence was enough to send a shiver up her spine. Her mother sat on the couch, posture straight, hands clasped together. She wasn't angry. That would have been easier. Instead, her expression carried a quiet, exhausted disappointment, the kind that made the girl's stomach twist painfully. No one spoke. There was no need to ask why she had been called in. They knew. And she knew they knew. She opened her mouth, but the words died before reaching her tongue. It wasn't fear that silenced her. It was guilt. Heavy, suffocating guilt that pressed against her ribs, reminding her of every step that had led to this moment. Her father exhaled slowly, the kind of breath he only took when facing something deeply serious. She remembered being younger, and seeing that same breath before lessons about trust, honesty, responsibility. But this time, it carried something sharper, something final. She shifted her weight, desperate to say something. Anything that could soften what was coming. But the truth was too large, too tangled, too late. Her lie had seemed harmless at first, just a quick way to avoid trouble. A shortcut away from consequences she hadn't wanted to face. But lies behaved like cracks in ice. Small at first, silent, but always spreading beneath the surface, until the moment everything collapsed. And tonight, it had collapsed. She stepped fully into the room, her backpack slipping from her shoulder, with a quiet thud against the floor. The sound echoed more loudly than it should have, slicing through the silence. Her father set the paddle down on the table, not abruptly, but with a deliberate calmness that made her chest tighten even more. It was a message without words. Her mother lifted her eyes at last. They weren't filled with anger, but with hurt. Deep, personal hurt. The kind you feel only when trust has been broken by someone you love. For a moment, the girl couldn't breathe. She wished she could go back, to the moment before the lie, before everything spiraled, before disappointment replaced warmth in her parents' eyes. But time wasn't offering second chances. Her mother's lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to speak. But even she hesitated. The weight in the room was thick enough to hold everything still. Finally, the girl forced herself to lift her head, though her body felt heavier than stone. Her hands shook. Barely, but enough. She didn't try to hide it. There was no point pretending anymore. Her mother slowly leaned forward, the soft light brushing across her face, revealing the sadness etched into her expression. The girl felt a sting behind her eyes, but blinked it back, refusing to cry. Not yet. Not here. Her father took a small step closer. Not aggressive, not loud, but steady. The air seemed to shift around him, tightening the space between them. His silence wasn't cold. It was controlled. A silence born not from anger, but from disappointment so deep it left no room for raised voices. And that silence hurt more than anything else ever could. She swallowed hard, her breath trembling. Her mind spun with what she could say. Apologies, explanations, excuses, but none of them felt right. None of them felt enough. Her father's gaze didn't waver. Her mother's hands remained clasped, knuckles pale. The entire room waited. Then, finally, the girl took a breath. It wasn't steady. It wasn't confident. But it was the first step into the moment she had been avoiding. Because tonight wasn't about fear. It wasn't even about punishment. It was about accountability, about facing the truth she had tried so desperately to bury. And as she stood there, heart pounding, she realized something terrifying. The real punishment hadn't even begun yet. She thought the worst part was walking into that room. She was wrong. Because the moment they revealed what they knew, her entire world cracked open. Before we continue, make sure to like the video and subscribe. Your support keeps these powerful stories coming every week. The air in the living room felt heavier than before, pressing against her like an invisible weight. Her heartbeat echoed inside her ears, steady but strained, each thump a reminder that there was no turning back. She stood still, afraid to move, afraid to breathe too loudly, afraid to confront what she already sensed was coming. Her father didn't rush. He didn't raise his voice or demand answers. Instead, he walked toward the table with slow, deliberate steps and picked up a small folded sheet of paper. The motion alone made her chest tighten with dread. He held the paper between his fingers. Not accusingly, not angrily, but with a calmness so controlled it frightened her far more than any shouting ever could. She recognized the paper instantly. Her stomach dropped. It was her progress report. The one she forged. The one she said she never received. The one she believed was buried under her mattress, impossible to find unless someone dug deep enough. Someone had dug. Her mother gently rose from the couch, not to confront her, but to stand beside her father. The two of them together formed a united front, quiet, steady, unshakable. The girl's breath caught in her throat as her father slowly unfolded the paper. The sound of the creasing edges crackled through the silence, like a spark ready to ignite everything. He didn't need to read it aloud. He didn't need to point to the scribbled signature or the altered grade. She knew. And they knew. She knew. Her legs felt weak. For a moment she wondered if they would hold her at all. Her mother looked at her, not with fire, not with rage, but with a sorrow so deep it carved itself into her expression. It wasn't the lie itself that hurt her. It was what the lie represented. Distrust. Avoidance. A decision to run instead of face the truth. Her mother took a small step forward. The girl instinctively stepped back, the fear of disappointing her carving a hollow ache inside her chest. But her mother didn't follow. She simply stood there, letting the weight of the moment settle between them. Her father finally spoke, not harshly, not coldly, but with a firm clarity that echoed through her entire body. But she didn't hear the words. She only heard what they meant. They knew everything. The forged signature, the failing grade, the missed assignments, the weeks of pretending everything was fine. Her carefully built lie had unraveled completely. She felt her throat tighten. A trembling breath escaped her as she tried to steady herself. Her thoughts raced, fragments of guilt, fear, and regret swirling like a storm inside her mind. She wished she could disappear into the floor, vanish before the consequences could take shape. But consequences were already in motion. Her father set the paper down, the gesture soft but final. His eyes met hers, steady, unwavering, impossibly calm. A calmness that told her he had thought through everything, had decided everything, and no amount of pleading would undo what was coming. Her mother slowly sat back on the couch, her posture straight, but her expression weighed down by sadness. The girl could almost feel the disappointment radiating from her, gentle yet crushing. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating, until the girl finally forced herself to breathe. Her chest rose and fell in sharp, uneven motions as the reality of her actions pressed deeper and deeper into her conscience. Her father took a single step closer, measured, deliberate. He didn't have to say a word. His presence alone told her that the moment of reckoning was here. The girl lowered her gaze, unable to hold his eyes any longer. Her vision blurred as her emotions rose: shame, regret, fear of what came next. She didn't cry. Not yet. But the pressure behind her eyes grew with every passing second. Her father moved the paddle slightly on the table, aligning it with perfect precision. The simple motion struck her harder than any raised voice. It meant the punishment wasn't theoretical. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't avoidable. It was imminent. Her mother clasped her hands tightly together, her fingers twisting with an anxious sadness she couldn't hide. She wasn't preparing to watch her daughter suffer. She was preparing to let her daughter face the consequences she had earned. And that was the hardest part. The girl's breath trembled. She could almost hear her heartbeat in the quiet room. The once warm and familiar space now felt like a chamber built for truth, a place where lies finally came undone. Her father's voice broke the silence again. Calm, steady, impossible to misinterpret. It wasn't anger that shaped his tone. It was resolve. She knew what came next. Her knees felt weak, her palms damp, her stomach twisted into tight knots. She wasn't afraid of the physical pain. She was afraid of what this moment symbolized. Afraid of seeing herself through her parents' eyes. Afraid of becoming someone who had chosen deceit over honesty. Afraid of losing their trust forever. She lifted her head, forcing herself to face them even though every instinct inside her begged to run, to hide, to pretend this wasn't happening. But running had brought her here. Hiding had made everything worse. Pretending had shattered the fragile bond she valued most. And now, she stood on the edge of a consequence she could no longer escape. In the warm light of the living room, surrounded by the weight of her own choices, she understood. This punishment wasn't meant to hurt her. It was meant to change her. She thought she was prepared for whatever came next, but nothing could prepare her for the moment consequences stopped being a possibility and became her reality. Before we continue, make sure to like the video and subscribe. Your support helps bring these powerful stories every week. The room felt smaller now. Not physically. Nothing had changed. But emotionally, it felt as if the walls were closing in, leaving her nowhere to hide from what was about to unfold. A quiet stillness hung in the air, vibrating with unspoken meaning. The weight of the moment pressed down on her shoulders, making it hard to breathe. Her father no longer held the progress report. He no longer needed to. Everything that mattered was already known. The paddle lay on the table, angled neatly, its presence transforming the familiar living room into a space of accountability. She stared at it, her heartbeat thudding in her chest, slow but heavy. It wasn't the object itself that frightened her. It was what it represented. Her decisions, her lies, her responsibility. Her mother sat completely still on the couch, hands clasped tightly together. Her expression remained calm, but her eyes revealed everything. Pain, worry, disappointment, and something else the girl didn't expect. Hope. Hope that this moment could still guide her daughter back toward honesty. The girl felt her breath catch as her father finally stepped closer. He didn't hurry. He didn't raise his voice. His movements were steady, quiet, controlled, and that made everything inside her tremble even more. She stood frozen, her arms pressed close to her sides, unable to decide whether she wanted to move or stay perfectly still. A strange mix of dread and clarity pulsed through her body. She knew what was coming, yet part of her held on to the smallest hope that maybe, just maybe, her father would change his mind. But one look at his face told her that wasn't going to happen. He wasn't acting out of anger. He wasn't reacting impulsively. He was fulfilling a responsibility he believed in deeply. And that made the moment impossible to escape. The girl's legs felt weak, but she forced herself to stand straighter. Running from truth had brought her here. Facing it was the only path left. Her father reached the edge of the coffee table, resting his fingertips lightly against the wooden surface. The paddle lay inches away. The soft lamp behind him cast a warm glow across his shoulders, making the room feel both intimate and unbearable. He looked at her, steady, quiet, observing not only her fear, but her readiness to finally accept the consequences. The silence stretched, thick and unmoving. Her mother shifted slightly, a subtle movement that carried a world of emotion. She wasn't preparing to intervene. She wasn't preparing to soften the moment. She was preparing herself to witness it, and witnessing could be harder than anything else. The girl's throat tightened again. A trembling breath escaped her lips as her father spoke at last. His words calm, measured, leaving no room for misunderstanding. But she didn't need words to know what he meant. His tone made everything clear. This was no longer a conversation. This was the turning point. Her pulse raced as she forced herself to lift her head. Meeting his eyes felt like stepping into bright light after hiding in shadows for too long. She saw disappointment, but she also saw something surprising beneath it. Resolve. And even a faint trace of compassion. He wasn't doing this to punish her anger. He was doing it because the truth mattered. Because trust mattered. Because she mattered. The realization hit her harder than the fear itself. Her father reached for the paddle, not abruptly, but with quiet finality. The sound of wood brushing against the table felt louder in her ears than any shout. Her breath faltered. Her palms grew damp. Her knees weakened. This was the moment she could no longer pretend. No excuses. No hiding. No lies. Her mother closed her eyes briefly, then exhaled, as if trying to release the ache inside her own chest. When she opened them again, they glistened faintly, reflecting both sorrow and acceptance. The girl felt a wave of emotion rising, building in her throat, but she held it down. She refused to cry before anything even happened. She needed to be strong, if not for herself, then for the trust she hoped she could rebuild. Her father stepped back just enough to give her space. Not distance, space. Space to acknowledge what was coming. Space to accept what she had earned. Space to show that she was ready. She stared at the floor, then at the paddle in his hand, then finally at her parents. The room seemed to vibrate with anticipation. Her heart beat faster, but it wasn't only fear. It was the strange clarity that came when all illusions were stripped away. Her father waited. Her mother waited. The room itself waited. The girl slowly inhaled, steadying herself, grounding herself in a moment. She wished she could rewind, but knew she had to face. Consequences weren't meant to destroy her. They were meant to rebuild what had been broken. And she realized that the only way forward was to take the step no one could take for her. She nodded once, small, shaky, but unmistakable. Her father's expression softened just a fraction, the first sign of emotion breaking through his composed exterior. He didn't smile. He didn't frown. He simply acknowledged the courage it took for her to accept the inevitable. Then he spoke again, quiet, firm, guiding her into the position where the punishment would begin. Her breath caught. Her hands trembled. The room held its breath with her. This was it. The boundary between fear and accountability. Between childish choices and maturity. Between who she was and who she would become after this night. The first consequence was seconds away. She thought the fear had reached its peak. But fear was nothing compared to the moment she had to finally submit and feel the consequences she earned. Before we continue, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. It helps this channel grow and brings more powerful stories every week. The room felt unbearably quiet, as if the world outside had faded away, leaving only 3 people suspended in a moment. None of them truly wanted, but all of them understood. Warm light spilled softly across the floor, highlighting dust particles drifting in the air, slow, weightless, untouched by the gravity that pulled at her chest. Her father stood steady, the paddle in his hand resting at his side with controlled intention. He wasn't angry. He wasn't rushed. He was resolved. Her mother sat on the couch, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had turned pale, her eyes following every subtle movement with a mixture of dread, sorrow, and unspoken love. But the girl was the only one who truly felt time stretching thin, tightening around her like a rope. Her breath hitched. Her palms sweated. Her heartbeat seemed too loud for a room so silent. Her father stepped back, just enough to give her space. Clear, direct, undeniable space. The kind you only give someone who must make a choice themselves. There was no command, no raised voice. Just expectation. Just consequence. Just the truth, standing in front of her with the weight of her own decisions. She froze for a moment, her feet anchored to the floor. She knew what he wanted her to do. She knew what came next. But stepping into that moment felt like stepping off a cliff. Her father's calm presence didn't push her. It drew her. It told her she wasn't being punished out of anger. It told her this was a boundary she needed. It told her this was the moment she would grow. Her throat tightened as she took a single, trembling breath. She lowered her gaze, fighting the instinct to run, to hide, to bargain. But running had brought her here. Hiding had made the truth worse. Bargaining had always been a temporary escape. This was different. This was final. Her father's voice was steady as he guided her. Not harsh, not emotional, but firm enough that it left no uncertainty about what she needed to do. She felt her legs move before her mind fully caught up. Step by step, she approached the couch where her mother sat watching with quiet heartbreak. Her mother didn't look away. Even though it hurt her, she stayed present. Because accountability required presence, not distance. The girl reached the side of the couch, her hands trembling as she braced herself. Her knees weakened, bending slowly, almost reluctantly, until she lowered herself across her father's lap. The fabric of his clothes felt rough beneath her palms. The world suddenly tilted to a different angle, the floor stretching out beneath her, the lamp's warm glow washing across the room like an unblinking witness. Her breath grew uneven. Her chest tightened. Her body stiffened with anticipation. Her father rested one large, steady hand on her back. The weight wasn't heavy. It was grounding. A silent message that he was still in control. Still calm. Still doing what he believed was right. Her mother's breath caught softly, the sound barely noticeable but sharp enough to cut through the moment. She folded her hands even tighter, her shoulders tense, her heart breaking even as she accepted the necessity of what was happening. The paddle lifted from her father's side. Only an inch. Just enough for the air to shift. The girl felt every muscle in her body lock in anticipation. Her fingers dug lightly into the fabric of the couch. Her eyes squeezed shut. And then, the first swat. A sharp sting, clean and unmistakable, snapped through her body. Not cruel. Not excessive. But firm enough to make her breath jolt out in a short, shaky gasp. Her father didn't pause. He maintained a steady rhythm. controlled, deliberate, measured. Each swat delivered not in anger, but in accountability. They came evenly, consistently, allowing no space for denial or escape. She felt the burn build, layer by layer, her body reacting before her mind could process each strike. Her breath quickened. Her toes curled inside her socks. The sting spread deeper, settling into her muscles, forcing her to feel every inch of consequence she had earned. Her mother bit her lip, watching with pained eyes. She didn't intervene. She didn't speak. She allowed the process to unfold. A silent guardian of the lesson being etched into her daughter's memory. Another swat. And another. And another. Her breath trembled louder now, barely controlled. A faint whimper escaped her, not from pain alone, but from the emotional weight pressing against her chest. Shame. Regret. Realization. Her father continued, with the same steady rhythm, neither harsh nor soft. Every strike carried purpose. Every pause between them carried meaning. This wasn't punishment to hurt her. It was punishment to guide her back toward honesty, toward trust, toward growth. The sting deepened, warming her skin with a heat that pulsed in waves. She shifted slightly, instinctively trying to brace herself, but her father's hand on her back held her gently in place, not trapping her, but supporting her, grounding her. She felt her composure crumble. Her breath hitched again. Her eyes burned with tears she could no longer hold back. A soft sob escaped her, quiet, fragile, honest. Her father didn't stop. Not immediately. Not until the lesson had truly settled. When the final swat landed, she felt it vibrate all the way through her core. Her father lowered the paddle, his breath steady, his posture unmoved by anger. He rested his hand on her back again. Warm, grounding, reassuring. Her mother wiped a tear from her cheek. Not for the punishment, but for the daughter she loved. The girl lay still, breathing shakily, the heat of consequence radiating through her. She wasn't destroyed. She was humbled. She was changed. And in the quiet after the storm, she realized something profound. This wasn't the end of her story. This was the turning point. She thought the punishment was the hardest part. But she was wrong. Because nothing tested her more than facing the quiet that came after, the moment she had to rebuild the trust she broke. Before we begin, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Your support helps this channel bring more powerful stories every week. The room felt different after the punishment, quieter, softer, almost washed clean by the storm of emotion that had passed through it. The warm glow of the lamp seemed gentler now, touching the edges of the furniture with a calmness that didn't exist moments earlier. The air no longer vibrated with tension. It held something new. Something tender, fragile and honest. The girl remained still for a long moment. Her breathing slow and uneven, her body warm with the sting of consequence. She wasn't crying anymore, but the tears left a faint shine on her cheeks. Her father kept his hand steady on her back, allowing her space to breathe, to settle, to begin understanding the weight of what had just happened. Her mother exhaled shakily from the couch, relief and sorrow blending in her expression. She wiped her eyes quickly, not wanting to show how deeply the moment had affected her. But the girl had seen it. The pain, the love, the fear of losing trust in her daughter, and the hope that this moment would bring her back. Slowly, her father helped her sit up. He didn't rush her. He didn't expect her to compose herself immediately. His movements were gentle, supportive, guiding her through a moment she wasn't quite ready to face alone. Her legs trembled as she sat upright, the heat still pulsing across her skin. She wiped her face with the back of her hand, embarrassed but too exhausted to hide it. Her father didn't look at her with judgment. His eyes were steady, warm, and unexpectedly full of compassion. She felt something inside her shift, something deeper than regret, deeper than guilt. a clarity she hadn't allowed herself before. Her father set the paddle on the table, not as a threat or reminder, but simply as an object whose purpose had been fulfilled. Then he moved closer, lowering himself to her level. Her mother joined them, stepping gently to the floor and sitting beside her, close enough that their shoulders nearly touched. The girl swallowed hard, her breath shaky. In the quiet that followed, she felt more exposed than she had all evening. And then her mother reached out. Not to scold her, not to correct her, but to hold her. Her hand rested carefully on the girl's arm, the touch soft but grounding. It was an invitation. Not forgiveness yet, not fully, but the beginning of it. Her father placed a hand on her back, steady and protective. She couldn't hold back the emotion rising in her chest. A small, broken sound escaped her lips. A sound of release, of remorse, of finally letting go of everything she had been carrying alone. Her body leaned forward, collapsing into her mother's arms. She didn't sob loudly. She didn't wail, but her quiet tears soaked into her mother's shoulder, each one a confession more honest than word. Her mother held her tightly, stroking her back, her breath uneven but full of love she could no longer hide. Her father wrapped an arm around both of them, forming a circle that felt stronger than the fear she had held for so long. There, in that fragile embrace, she felt something break open inside her. Not pain, not shame, but the realization that she had been trusted, loved, and believed in far more deeply than she ever understood. Her mother whispered softly, not in anger, not in discipline, but in comfort. And though the words were gentle, their meaning was enormous. Her father's hold tightened, just slightly, as if reminding her that he wasn't there to punish her. He was there to guide her through the consequences of her choices, and to stand with her on the other side. The girl breathed harder, the sound thick with emotion. But slowly, gradually, her breathing steadied. When she finally pulled back, her mother cupped her face gently, brushing the last tear from her cheek. Her father's eyes met hers, steady and warm. There was no disappointment now, only relief. Relief that she had faced the truth. Relief that she had taken responsibility. Relief that she was still their daughter, still loved, still whole. She felt lighter, worn out, humbled, but lighter. Her father spoke softly now, his voice low and measured. He wasn't delivering consequences anymore. He was offering guidance, not as a judge, but as a parent, as someone who believed she could do better, be better, choose better. Her mother nodded in agreement, laying a gentle hand on the girl's knee. It wasn't permission to forget what happened. It was permission to move forward. The girl inhaled deeply, letting the air fill the hollow place where fear used to live. She nodded, the motion small but determined. For the first time in days, she felt able to speak. Not because she was forced to, but because she finally understood what needed to be said. Her voice cracked, but her words were clear, and they mattered. Her parents didn't demand promises. They didn't expect perfection. They only asked for honesty. And in that moment, she chose it. Her father lifted her gently to her feet, making sure she was steady. Her mother wrapped an arm around her, supporting her as the three of them walked away from the living room. The place where consequences were given, but also where healing began. As they stepped down the hallway, something settled inside her. This punishment hadn't broken her. It had rebuilt her. It hadn't taken something away. It had given something back. The strength to tell the truth, and the courage to face whatever came next. And though the night would stay in her memory forever, it would not haunt her. It would guide her. And remember, the stories we tell, and the ones we listen to, shape who we are. So take the lesson, carry it with you, and keep growing. Because even in the darkest moments, there's always something to learn, and a better version of ourselves waiting on the other side. If this story touched you, leave a like, drop a comment, and share it with someone who needs it. Let's spread these messages, one heart at a time. See you in the next story.